Hey guys, it's your girl Corporate Carolyn, and needless to say, the corporate workday is over. But I had a story to share with you all. It has nothing to do with anti aging, nothing to do with my hair, in case anybody's wondering. But this has more to do with a story that I wanted to share from my life. A lot of times you guys see me here working from home and being able to do my videos, just living the life from my perspective where I don't have to commute anywhere. I don't have to be out when it's snowing or raining. I can sit here and I'm working on things that I actually enjoy, surprisingly, for the first time in my life at 58. So it's a testament that anything can happen, and basically that life can turn around on a dime. Because back in 2020, when I was working for a company that at first I thought it was going to be kind of cool as a technical editor, because when I had managed a design team years ago, not only was I writing design documents and things, but I was also editing other people's work. So I said, well, how hard can it be? Me just looking at documents and fixing it. Well, I had no idea that the boss that I had, their just whole way of doing things was just to make, it almost reminded me of the movie Life with Eddie Murphy. He was saying that they were making rocks out of, well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't Eddie Murphy. It was Django. I think where they were saying they were making rocks into big rocks into little rocks, and that was just all they were doing. It's one of those movies, but and that's what it felt like. They were just taking big rocks and turning them into little rocks for no apparent reason, and it was just so bureaucratic. It took any fun that could have been in the job out of it by making up things that were so convoluted that I actually hated it and I really wanted to leave. But I had been out of the IT game for a while, and I was trying to act like I had good sense for a while so that I could maybe move to another area of the industry, more like technical writing, but I needed to kind of cut my teeth in that particular position. So I really needed it, and I needed to act right. But during that, of course, the job was far away. So not only did I have to, it cut my workouts in half, because I needed to not only drive to a bus stop, I needed to ride a bus, and then I needed to go to the train station, then I needed to ride the train, then I needed to walk in order to get there. And so it was horrible. So the devotion that I do here now before I start working, after my 2+ hour workout that I'm able to do, back then I could only work out for maybe like 40 minutes in order for me to be able to drive and get to the bus and get to the train. And it was horrible because when you got to the train station, a lot of times I didn't look and say, oh, I wonder if that's my train. I would just start running immediately so that I wouldn't miss the train, because if I missed the train, then I would get to work after 9. And then when I came back in the evenings, I would look and say, oh, I wonder if that's my bus. I would just start running to try to catch the bus. And a lot of times you're standing out in the heat. And then not only that, the devotion that I was doing here at the table, I was doing it on the bus. So I had to carry my devotional, my journal, and my Bible. And so it was like, my bag was heavy. I'm sitting on the bus. I'm riding the train, and then you get to work and the people aren't nice. My boss used to try to embarrass me, and they had all of this training, and I kept having these technical issues with my laptop that they provided. It's not my laptop, but they provided it. And so just almost everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And I'm trying to just be on my best behavior and not say anything bad to my boss or whatever, because I needed the job, like I said, to prove myself and to get back into the industry. And long story short, it got to a point where she actually had the nerve to bring me into the office with her boss. And it was just horrible. And she found out really quickly that I'm not really the one you want to do that with, because I can go toe to toe with you on facts and get you corrected really quickly. And so she wound up leaving before I did, in a really bad way. And so it just shows you that you can't really be ugly to people in an environment, thinking that you'll just get off unscathed, because she wasn't unscathed when she left. And then she also didn't realize that I had gone to HR and let them know some of the issues that were going on. And so my issues there and with her wound up helping people that came after me, because they redid their process. They provided a lot more training, and I actually wound up leading some of the training. So it all worked out relatively well. But because I was doing that long commute, once the school year started, it wound up being almost a 2-hour commute, and I didn't realize. So like a lot of times, by the time I would get back to that bus stop where my car was, and I might stop at the grocery store on the way home, a lot of times I wasn't even getting home until like about 7. And so then I'd come in the house and my husband would say, well, is there anything you want to talk about? I'm like, no, it's nothing to talk about. The only person I need to talk to is Jesus. Just give me a moment and I'll go upstairs. And so like those were some of the times where I was watching Dr. Phil and lying in the bed, eating Little Debbie's. It was just not the best time. And then the people didn't like to go to lunch. And, I was really close to a city where I could walk. But most people just ate at their desk. And then if I did go to lunch, I'd have to stay at work longer, and I would get back home, even later. So I just could not wait to get out of there. And as it turned out, this company had an office that was close to my house. But no, they didn't want us to work there. And I kept thinking, maybe at some point, maybe they'll let us work from home a day or two there. And then, I just kept being faithful. I kept praying and asking the Lord to help me. And then they wound up having less space than they wanted in the office that I was commuting to. And so then they came up with the idea that maybe 1 or 2 days a week, some people could work from home. And so I think this one person, it was an older lady, and she lived in an area where I lived. And then, they announced that she was going to be working from home a couple of days a week. And I said, well, wait a minute. Why, or working in the office closest to us for a few days a week. And I said, time out. Now, how is it that she gets to work, out in that office near our house? And they said, oh, well, she's been here longer than you. And I said, nuh-uh. We started on the same day because we did our orientation together. And then after we had already had a run-in before, and I had already spoken to HR, I don't think they really wanted to mess with me. And they said, oh, okay, well, you can work from that office 2 days a week too. And I was like, that's great. And so, things started to look up a little bit. So I only had a 3-day-a-week commute. And I said, okay. And so, but still, bus, train, cold weather, rainy weather, it still was less than ideal. And so then COVID rolls around, and then they started saying, well, everybody will work from home. And so it's so funny that even in periods that where horrible things happen, sometimes there's a little glimmer of hope that might come out of it. So I wound up getting to work from home 5 days a week. And so, but the thing was, I still hated the work. They still made it harder than it needed to be. And then they started making people multitask and learn how to do other people's jobs. Like, not only was I a technical writer, they had this thing called white glove, where you had to make sure that things were 508 compliant and then run documents through software. And so it was just like they were doing everything that they could to torment me and take any fun that could have been out of the job. And so I was like, please, Lord, help me get out of there. I was like on LinkedIn, night and day looking, trying to find something. And then after a while, like as I advised some people who were trying to go into technical writing, at least 95% of the jobs that I would see were not for my skill set, or they wanted everything but the kitchen sink. And like maybe I might have 2 out of the 20 items that they wanted. So it was like not a nice transition or segue into some other job. And so then I got the realization that all the jobs I ever got, it's except for maybe one, it wasn't because of something I did. Most of them were like people calling me saying, we saw your resume on, Monster, or, on Dice or something, or Career Builder. And we were wondering if you might be interested, or they saw it in the paper or something, like where they might have had a job board. And so then, or I went to a career fair and somebody said, well, would you like to work here or there? It's never really just me finding the job myself. And so then I said, you just need to stop and just pray about it and don't worry. And then so somebody called me out of the blue and said, hey, would you like to work for this company as a contractor that you worked with, about 5 years ago? And I was like, yeah, I would. And so then next thing you know, things just started happening like that. And they said, well, you have to interview by when or a certain day. And I said, but I'm on my way to Georgia pretty soon, and so I won't be able to do that. And they said, well, you can just interview in the car. So who has an interview in the car? So I wound up interviewing in the car, and then I think a week or two passes, and then the recruiter that contacted me, they said, well, they're talking to a few more people, and it takes a while for them to figure it out. And I just said, if it's for me, it's for me. I'm not going to worry about it. So, I went home, visited my mom. I came back, and then they said, well, yeah, they want you to start. And I was like, really? Do I have to go in the office? And they said, no, you can just work from home. So a brand new company said you can work from home. And so that lasted for almost a year at that same company. And then the project ended. And then I said, okay, I'm getting ready to accept a job that was hybrid remote, where I'd have to go again for another long commute. And I was like, please, Lord, I don't want this. Please, 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 because I had gotten used to working in my kitchen and I liked it. And so, I prayed about it. And then I think right before I was getting ready to accept and start the next job that had that long commute too, the people called me back and said, hey, somebody that you worked with on your last project, that person recommended you for another assignment. Would you be interested? I was like, I would. And so then, I wound up interviewing, and this time not in the car, but actually here in the kitchen. And it was for a company or for a project I knew nothing about what they were doing, had never done it before, had no real experience. If the director who looked at my resume, if he had actually, paid attention to it and judged it against the merit of what they were actually trying to do, he probably wouldn't have even given me a second look if this person didn't recommend me. And so our interview consisted, I kid you not, of us being on Teams, me laughing and joking with that friend, him listening, and then maybe him asking me just a couple of random questions. And then next thing you know, they call me and they say, oh, yeah, they'd like you to start. I was like, what? And I was waiting to see if they would want me to come in, because they were in a city that would have been a far commute too. And so they said, oh, no, you can work from home. I was like, what? And then one time, I think after working for the person a year, it was only supposed to be about 6 months. Then after about maybe a year and a half, that person was not too far from my house, about 20 minutes in a different office that they were in. I said, well, if you ever me to meet you or whatever, I can stop there. And he didn't even address it. He just moved on to the next work thing. And so I've never met these people that I work with for the most part. And it'll be 3 years in March. And so when I tell you that I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined that something like that could happen, that I could sit here, work on documents, write, do something that I enjoy, get money that I enjoy, after that horrible experience back in 2020 and late 2019 as well. I never would have thought. So a lot of times people just think that life is always going to be the way that it has been. That's not necessarily the case. Life can turn around like that. And the bad situation that you are really wanting to get out of, the thing that you're dreading, hating, just wanting out of, sometimes you have to just have faith and suck it up until something better comes along. And that's what I did. I sucked it up, but I definitely prayed. And it reminded me of like a story in the Bible that talked about, the fiery furnace. And I referred to that as being a fiery furnace. And people in my family would say, well, how's the job coming? I'm like, it's horrible. And they say, are you sure? How is it really? Horrible, just horrible. And it really was, but I viewed it as a fiery furnace because I learned SharePoint, because I didn't know how to use SharePoint. I learned that in the fiery furnace. I didn't really have the experience that I needed in Outlook, like for setting up meetings and all sorts of things. I had no idea. I hadn't used Microsoft Office in a number of years, so the whole app thing, I wasn't that familiar with it. But all of the things that I learned in that fiery furnace experience are all the things that make me a superstar in the environment where I'm in right now. And so without going through that bad period, I wouldn't be able to thrive during this good period. So my advice to you, hang in there. Keep your eyes open. Definitely be on LinkedIn, especially if you're in IT. And just suck it up and do the best that you can in whatever situation you find yourself in. Just knowing that just because you're in it now doesn't mean that it's forever. Doesn't mean that you can't get out. Doesn't mean that there's not something better. And the thing that you would really enjoy doing, you could be doing that this time next year, this time next month, this time next week. You don't know. That's why you got to have faith and you got to keep moving. So that's all I wanted to share with you, because I never in my wildest dreams would have thought that not only would I be here working on something that I love, but also being able to make videos with you guys while I take breaks from work, because I rarely go anywhere for lunch. So a lot of times this is the break when the light isn't too bright, shining through the window on the camera. But it's just a blessing, and I really have to thank God for that, because I don't know how. I can't explain. It's nothing I've done. I'm not just so great. And like I said, the job that I have, I didn't even qualify for. It's just like the Bible talks about, your gifts will make room for you. The Lord opened up a door. I went in, and my gifts have made room for me. Where can your gifts make room for you? You just don't know unless you just stay faithful and stay on the path that you're on. And no matter what environment you find yourself in, learn as much as you can. So when you walk away, you're leaving with the experience, you're leaving with lessons learned, and it will take you far. You just don't know. You just have to keep going. But until the next time, I hope that helps somebody out there. But in the meantime, you guys have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.